Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody today, this afternoon, to our Visual Management Series webinars presented by Visual Workplace. My name is Rhonda Covera. I'll be presenting the webinar for you here today. I just want to, I've also, here with me is Mark Thompson.
Hello, everybody.
He's going to be running things on the back end, and he's going to just talk with you briefly and let you know how we're going to be handling questions today.
Yep, if you guys look on your right-hand side or possibly at the top of the screen if you've undocked your control panel, you should see a control panel there that has some icons. There are two. There's a chat section as well as a question section. Feel free to ask in either spot. I'll be monitoring both areas. And once you've asked, we will answer them at the end of the presentation.
Great, thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
So again, just wanted to give you a little bit of information about this webinar that we're going to be presenting here for you today. This is one webinar in a series of 6 that we have been presenting throughout the year, and unfortunately we're at the end of the year and we'll be starting this up again in January. Just wanted to give you an overview of the webinars that we do offer and then let you know about the next one that's going to be in January. We normally offer these the first Thursday of the month, but coming back after the holiday and, you know, having everybody still, you know, in a New Year's hangover, we're going to run things the January 10th. And in that webinar, we're going to be talking about standard work and how to integrate that with visual communication. So Mark will be posting by the end of this webinar. That webinar will be posted and available for registration. So you're welcome to share that with others on your team or others in your network. But today we're going to be talking about 5S Facilitator Guide. And so what I'd like to do just briefly is tell you a little bit about Visual Workplace in the event that this is the first webinar that you've been to for us. We've been producing visual communication products for manufacturing companies for over 20 years. The business started out by offering our mobile in-house sign shop that you see here on the left, and that is a product we continue to offer today. But it allows companies to do their own signage, and you definitely realize a lot of flexibility and cost savings if you have the resources to do some of the signage yourself. We also provide custom signs and banners, so if that's not doing things yourself isn't quite in your wheelhouse or you don't have the capacity to do it, you can lean on us for that. And then we have a whole host of other products that we'll talk a little bit about some of those today, and products that you can use to support your 5S initiatives, especially with creating locations for things and making sure things are identified and where they belong and what we're supposed to do there. So with that, I would like to just take you briefly through what's going to be covered today in the webinar. First, we're going to start off with a 5S overview. Sometimes it's hard in these situations to know where everybody's at. If they've been, you know, working on 5S for a long period of time, or if some of you are just getting started, what we're going to do is just give you, you know, a brief overview. And we're going to spend more on products and best practice ideas that all of you should be able to use regardless of where you're at in your progression with implementing 5S. But again, it's a great refresher. We'll talk about some basics. And always, as I'll mention throughout the webinar, you know, we're going to make the copy of this webinar available to everyone that attended. You'll both have an audio version and the actual PowerPoint presentation that you can download. And we'll probably have that available for everybody probably on Monday. And what we'll do is we'll send you a link to a landing page, and from there you can download, you know, whatever you're interested in looking at further. I do encourage you, you're welcome to use the PowerPoint presentation and incorporate it into your own training materials. Nothing that we're talking about here is top secret. You know, a lot of the information that you're going to hear today comes from coaching opportunities that we've had with our customers. So we're always looking to offer assistance and offer help. So if after this webinar you still feel like you need some more information about 5S or certain aspects of the things that we talked about, I'll share with you my email address, and you're always welcome to email me directly, and I'd be more than happy to talk with you about some of the challenges or questions that you might have. So we'll, anything that we can do to help. This is, we're just sharing the things that we've been blessed to learn over the years and really want to give back to our customer base. So going through, I did want to mention this webinar is probably going to last about 40 minutes, so we'll try and stay on task with that time frame. So back to our overview for today. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about, we're going to do a 5S overview. We're then going to take you into some best practice ideas and things to make your visual communication and your workplace organization more effective. And they're just little bit tips and tricks that you might be able to integrate into your facilities. Then we're going to wrap it up with some of the tools that we have available that you might find useful as you're stepping through your implementations. So we're going to get started by first talking about 5S as an overview. And for many, we're just going to, as I mentioned, we're going to highlight today the steps for implementing 5S in your facility. And if you feel like you need a deeper dive as we go through this today, as I mentioned, reach out to me and I'd be more than happy to offer some assistance or provide some reference material that you might need to keep things moving on your end. So as many of you may be familiar, 5S is a methodology for organizing your workplace. This came, the terminology and the method originated from Toyota many years ago. And so it's something that's been around for a long, long time. And often you see fads and ideas and things that come and go, but workplace organization or the 5S methodology is really something that's very simple and very easy to train others about, and it really does create, it helps to improve the culture within your organizations because we're all working towards a common goal and we have agreement on the way things are supposed to be organized in our workplace on many levels. And, when we talk about the longevity of 5S and how much it can add value, I'm starting to see in probably the last 5 years other industries beyond manufacturing that are starting to utilize the 5S methodology. We're seeing a lot more in healthcare. We're seeing it in retail. And so, again, there's some value here, and it's something that can be applied to many different types of organizations as you step through. So first we're going to talk about the first S, and that is your sorting activity. And the purpose of this sorting activity is to remove and eliminate any unnecessary items in the work area and to perform an initial cleaning. So as a leader, if you're directing others or training others, you can assign teams to help identify and prioritize the necessary items from the unnecessary. And you want to be careful and respectful. And that's one thing with the lean implementation. We always want to make sure that we have respect for others, their opinions, their experience, and making sure that we are integrating all of those items into our workplaces when we do the implementation. But again, what I would encourage you to think about maybe a little bit differently, listing out what is necessary and how much. I think sometimes we forget to look at the quantities that are necessary and really want to try and minimize those whenever we can. But, listing out, how much is necessary, because again, just because you said you have an area identified for a particular object, you can have too many of those objects in that area. So that would be one additional aspect of sorting that you might find useful as you're going through that sorting process. But we really want to find out what is necessary and unnecessary, remove those items that are not needed and that don't have value for the process at hand. And we want to look to minimize the quantities and making sure that only the things necessary to do the job before us are located in that particular space. And that could be in an office environment. It could be in in an HR environment, manufacturing, quality control, maintenance. All of these areas have applicable opportunities for utilizing 5S in their work areas. So once after you've gone through the sort activity, now we want to take the things that we agree are necessary and we want to set them in order. And so one thing that you want to make sure is that you put things in an efficient place so that the work can be simplified, and that will help to ensure that we have a safe, efficient workplace that is intelligently laid out for the items that we need. So again, we want to arrange for quick removal, and we want to make sure that we're going beyond just putting a square around something. Use visual controls, words and things such as the quantities like we were just talking about, descriptions of items, and making sure that we have almost foolproofed the organization in that particular area by describing what needs to go on in that, or where things need to be located. And again, you want to make sure that you're continuing to focus on safety and making sure that safety is above all when we're stepping through this 5S program. Some of you might, be operating in a 6S environment where safety is specifically called out. And again, that's perfectly fine as well. Can be integrated and implemented the same way, but just making sure that you acknowledge safety at every point during this 5S process is very important. Next, we're going to talk about cleanliness and shining those areas. This is probably the most difficult, well, at least it's difficult in my my company. We have a hard time keeping things clean. Things are organized, but we're not necessarily taking the time for daily cleanliness. And so what I would encourage you to do to try and make cleaning easier is look for ways to eliminate the mess. Prevent the mess from happening in the first place, and it doesn't have to be cleaned. And that is something that I think we tend to overlook when we're training others about the 5S methodology when we get to this point. But again, we want to make sure that we dedicate time for the cleanliness and the daily organization. We want to make sure, most secondly, that we have the right tools. And again, that can be problematic. I hear often the excuse, well, I'd clean, but I don't have the right tools to do it, and they're way over here, or they're not there when I need them. And we'll talk a little bit about tool shadows later in the presentation. But if the expectation is that we need to do it daily, it's important to set standard work for cleanliness, making sure that everybody has the tools they need, and they're always in a location that can be retrieved whenever necessary. So those being some of those challenges with shining. Next, we talk about standardization. And as I mentioned, our next webinar is going to be talking about standard work. And that's really kind of the next step. And you see that it's the fourth S in the methodology for 5S. And really what we're doing is we're working up to the point where we create these standards for everyone to follow. And so we want to, again, get rid of, it's just like cleaning your garage. You get rid of the things you don't need. You want the things there that are necessary. And so creating those standards are an important part of the process. Now, what you'll want to be sure to incorporate are those process walks, scorecards, and audits. Those are going to be really important, and they're going to give insight onto the level of detail and the compliance that you have on your team for following the standards that you're setting. So, unfortunately, just because you set the standard doesn't mean everyone's going to follow the standard. It requires audits and circling back and checking to make sure that we're compliant. And you may find, and this is something really important to talk to your team about as well, is we've set these standards, we've organized, we've said these things are going to be placed where they're at, but leave the door open for change, because the standards that we set are the baseline for change, and so we want to continually improve. So just because we put a process in place, make sure you're going back to your team and asking their input and making sure that things are still working the way that they anticipated, Or again, do we need to look back a little bit and make some updates and some improvements? And again, one of the things I encourage you to do also, and it's time consuming, but it can be very valuable. You're taking time out here today to learn about some different experiences from others. I would encourage you to do, have some roundtables and share your experiences within your own facility. So again, you're saying, well, this works well, but this didn't, and this is what we did to fix it. And create shortcuts for others so they don't have to go through the same painful learning curves that you may have gone through. So again, these are not, this sharing experiences and developing standard toolkits. These aren't in your playbook for 5S, but these are just some things that you can do to better increase the possibility of success when you're implementing this program. Next, we want to talk about sustain, and I often get questions. It's like, well, how do you know that you're sustaining your system? What is there a light bulb that comes on? You're auditing and you're knocking it out of the park, and you've got 100% compliance. Yeah, those are all things that that would lead you to believe that you are sustaining your systems. But really, what I want to challenge you to is really to take the next step and integrate visual management methods, because oftentimes there's been, and probably not as much anymore, but 5S and visual management sometimes we're often seen as one and the same, and they're really not. 5S is really that starting point for your lean implementation. And once everything is organized and you've set some standards and you're auditing and you're following those standards, you want to step into visual management and really look at some of the problem-solving tools for improving your processes now that you've got everything organized. So here is a roadmap that we've used in coaching helping our customers in developing that visual management environment once they've gone through a 5S methodology implementation. One of my goals for 2019 is to put together a webinar specifically for visual management. And again, it'll dive more into processes and give you some feedback on, kind of a roadmap and establish a baseline for that implementation. So Mark just gave me a funny look because I said it. I've already set one of my resolutions for 2019 along with exercise, and we'll try and work on both of those. But anyway, hopefully that explanation, and again, this is the world the way I see it. But starting with 5S, really tackling that, finding some successes, leads you into the next step of visual management. And you can see here, we start to look at inventory control. We look at problem solving, leadership, work instructions, and those things are, those aren't really a part of the 5S methodology. So that's why you want to make sure you keep moving the mark once you've been successful with your 5S implementation. The other thing that I want to just talk about briefly, I'm often asked about, the color coding standards for 5S, for visual management, those types of things. And there's really no right or wrong way to do it. Here's some examples of what a couple of companies have done. My advice to you would be to really, really try to keep it simple. If it's too complex, nobody's going to use it, and it's not going to matter. So if you need some ideas or you have something in place and you want somebody to look at it and see, if there's some other opportunities there, again, I'm going to share my email at the end of the webinar. You're welcome to email me, and we'll definitely share some examples of what others have done, and it might be helpful for you as well. Next, we're going to step into some 5S best practices. And these are just some different things that you can incorporate into your environments that help with creating that standard work and organized workplace. Many of you, I'm sure, are utilizing floor graphics as a tool for organizing your workplaces. And again, there's lots of different ways to do this, and we wanted to just show you a couple of different options. Some companies find that outlining can be tedious and time-consuming, but others that outline find that it's very effective and it really helps to control behavior. So there's not a right or wrong answer. It's just to say that, you know, there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can use corners and floor symbols to help, you know, define where things belong, or you can use the floor tapes and graphics to help define where things belong and really get creative in how you do that. So it's just a matter of choice. There's not a right, and you may find that using a little bit of both might make sense in some areas versus others. We have a new floor mark product out, floor tape. It's a high performance, thicker, high-tech adhesive. So again, if you're looking and you're struggling with getting floor tapes to stick to your floor, this may be something that you want to try. We have samples available, so you're welcome to tap us for that if you're looking for some samples and you're struggling with that. But again, going back to just making sure that, you know, there are different options for organizing information in your workplace. Also, utilize bins and totes and color. As you can see here, you know, these are maintenance areas or small component storage areas, but again, they're very organized. Color is meaningful. They provided a key which directs behavior, and again, it really just helps to shorten the time spent searching, and that's really what we want to try and accomplish in some of these areas where it can get very tedious when you're trying to organize and then retrieve items as well. Excuse me. We talked a little bit about standardizing the tools in your workplace for shining. Again, some examples. This particular company went so far as to color code the tools for the area. Not only did they provide tool shadow boards that were very accessible, but they color coded the handles so that tools wouldn't drift from one place to another. They were struggling with replacement costs and missing items. And as soon as they went and they color-coded the handles, it's like all of a sudden everybody just fell into line, and the tools were always where you needed them to be. You may not have to go that far, but as I mentioned, I encourage you to standardize the tools that you want your team to use to clean and make sure they're readily accessible at the point of use. Those two things must happen. There are things you can do, as you can see here, to try and improve the likelihood that everybody follows the standard. Again, here's just some simple tool shadows on a pegboard. So again, you can do different, have different ways of displaying the information using different materials. I just encourage you to make sure you display it so it's visible and we reduce that wasted motion. Next, I want to share a system that we helped develop with one of our customers, and this was for helping to organize the cleanliness, the cleaning activities in the particular areas in their facility, because again, they were finding that tasks were not being done the way that they should be, and they were slipping. So what they did is over on the right-hand side, they had a card display, and they created a card for every cleaning task in that area. And there are tasks that were done daily, weekly, and monthly, and they were color-coded accordingly. So as the tasks were completed, the card was flipped over. And then at the end of that period, the cards are flipped back. So at any time, a supervisor, an operations manager, team lead, team members can always see where they were at as far as complying with their cleanliness standards. Then they went so far as to add some communication information, as you know, they're displaying their monthly audits. They wanted feedback from their team. Then there's open issues that are generated from the particular audits and action items. So again, it really incorporated a lot of their standard work, and it really helped them to stay on track and create that discipline in their work areas. Next, I just wanted to talk a little bit about adding, when we're creating signage, wherever you can, add labels and other information to your visual displays rather than just having words. Examples here, the engineering sample sign, they were just going to put the sign up that says engineering samples. Well, they were having troubles with engineers putting the right labels on the samples. So they're like, gosh, we should put that right on the sign. So again, you can incorporate things into your visual controls that are easy to change, but then again, add more value and really try and direct that behavior. And you'll see here in this next example, same thing. We didn't use labels, but we created information with mins and max and, directional information. So again, you're reinforcing the activities that you need to have happen. If you're putting together some 5S red tag areas, I would encourage you to put both information above and below, so it's very obvious what the area is. And you can see an example here of the system that we helped develop. Again, sometimes you want to make sure that once an item gets there, it's not there forever, and there's a process in place for disposition. And so again, you can put that disposition process right there above the area so that everybody understands what the process is, and it's not just shared with a few people. So again, it helps you keep those areas cleaned out and organized, and you're constantly turning that over. Again, we've got some other floor graphics. Sometimes you have limitations for hanging signs above areas. Well, think about putting information in your signs directly on the floor. We've got lots of capabilities. A lot of our customers create their own signage for the floor with their sign shop that I was talking about earlier. Some will have us do it. And so again, it's just we're encouraging and we're putting work instructions on the signage to make sure that people are following the process. I'm a big fan of color coding, and again, we took this into a human resources department, and again, employees were coming and asking for different types of forms, and so they just created a space outside of their offices and made accessible the forms that were used mostly, and they used color to try and help organize that so it could be retrieved easily. So again, we're not limiting these ideas to manufacturing. They can be applied to many different areas. In this next example, I just want to encourage you to make sure that you're displaying your audit results and you're seeking feedback, and you've got some corrective action loops in place so that as things are discovered that need to be addressed, there's a way to do that. We don't want to just keep reporting the same thing week after week, whether it be a safety concern or something, you've got product in there or materials in there you don't need. If you find something that's abnormal, you need to have something in place to help take care of or resolve those issues. So again, displaying those results can be very helpful. And I'm not sure if you can see it on the image on the right, the 5S communication board. They actually put photographs of the people that were on that 5S team. So if you had questions, you knew who to go to, and that can be very helpful in efficiency. Here's another idea, for helping to engage everyone and define responsibilities on the things that they need to be responsible for, or the areas that they need to be responsible for. This was just a simple CAD document of a particular warehouse area, and each person was assigned an area. It was color-coded. They knew that they were responsible for, making sure that things stayed organized. They'd gone through the 5S methodology. They'd gotten rid of the things they didn't need. They had a place for everything. But still, you have to have somebody that's responsible that comes back and says, oops, there's a skid there that doesn't belong. Oh, there's some inventory that should go back to a different location. Or, so there's things that just creep back, and you need somebody to have eyes on this to say, hey, I'll be the one to take care of those things that need taking care of in my particular area. So that might be helpful. Carts can also be very helpful in making sure. I've seen some companies put together these 5S carts where they put all the supplies on there that they need. They have their color coding standards on there. Can be used for Kaizen events or 5S events. But again, you might find these carts, and if you're looking for some different designs, we've got a couple available that you might find useful. Next, I'm going to take you through some of the products that we have. Gave you lots of examples, but I didn't tell you how we actually got it done. So this first item or product that I'd like to share with you is our Venom label printer. A lot of you probably have label printers, and they work just great. If you are in the market, and I think some of the frustration with label printers comes from the cost of supplies. And there are some label makers out there that have some pretty costly supplies in there, so it's sometimes hard to navigate. But if you are looking for a label printer, we have found a manufacturer that has done a decent job keeping the cost of their supplies in check. And that's one of the reasons we decided to carry this line, because it was in good conscience. I can tell you it's good value, and you're not going to break the bank trying to buy the supplies to support your project. So we can do a demo on this. We do have training on this particular product. So lots of resources if you're in the market for something new. Foam tool inserts, great opportunity for organizing where things belong. We have two ways of doing foam. We can take photographs of your products, and we can have them cut out by a CNC machine, and they're beautiful. They last forever. They clean up great. Those run about $50 a square foot. If you're looking to use foam and you want a cheaper price point, we have a do-it-yourself foam kit where you can trace your tool and cut it out with an X-Acto, and you can still get the same reverse color combination as you see here. So if you're looking for that, and the do-it-yourself option is about $15 a square foot. So there's definitely some different price points depending. I see a lot of people, the more expensive the item, the more expense they want to spend on organizing with the foam tool insert. So, you may not use it everywhere, but it may have some value in some areas in your facility. I know we were talking about tool shadow boards. As you can see here, we do most of the tool shadow boards. We do our custom printed. It's based on the tools that the customer has. We incorporate their logo. We've done some really fun things. We also have some mobile carts to make your tool shadow boards mobile. So if you're looking for some very professional looking tool shadow boards, and again, it doesn't necessarily have to just be for cleaning tools. We've done many for production tooling as well. So it's something that might be helpful. But this is something that we would do on our end for you. Now, if you're looking to do something yourself, save a little money, we have what we call our Shadow Mark. And it's an adhesive-backed film where you can trace your tool, cut it out, peel and stick, and create a decal of your tool. And again, that's a do-it-yourself product. It's nice. You can give it to operators in their work cells, and they can take care of it themselves. So again, you've got color coding options and lots of different, excuse me, lots of different ways to display and control, and really it's really more about tool control. And I think we do have an entire webinar set up on tool control, so we get into more detail on some of the products that we have for tool control. Next, we talked a little bit about when we started our mobile in-house sign shop. You can see this here on the left, and I just wanted to take a few minutes and just show you the types of signs that you can create with our sign shop. Really, there's no limit on what you can do. It's your imagination. We do the training for you. We train you how to use it. You then can buy the supplies as you need them. On our website, we've got hundreds and hundreds and thousands of templates and clip art. So there's lots of things that are already available for you to get you started. And again, we've got customers that have had their sign shops for over 20 years, and it's great equipment for an industrial environment. You're not going to use it every day, But when you need to do signage, whether it be, continuous improvement, 5S, but you can do your facility signage, your safety signage, anything that you currently have in your facility, you should be able to duplicate with this sign shop. So if that's something you're interested in, again, email me. We can do a demo online and show you, how quick and easy it is to utilize that. Next, I'm just going to throw this out there. As I mentioned, we went through the 5S overview rather quickly. If you're looking for a deeper dive, here's 2 videos that I would really encourage you to take a look at. One is specific to 5S. It's a great training tool, and the other is visual management. And it really helps your team kind of get a sense on the difference between the two, and gives lots of great examples like we talked about here today. We do have these available on our website, and there is a link to a trailer, so you can take a quick peek and kind of see, I don't know if you've ever gone and looked at a video or a movie and it's like, oh my gosh, this is from the 1960s, so it's not. But again, these are very update, fresh information, lots of great examples if you're needing more information or a training tool to use in your facility. Okay. All right, so we're nearing the end. Again, just a recap on the Visual Management Series webinars that we have available. Today we went through the 5S Facilitator Guide. Our next webinar will be on January 10th, 2 p.m., and we're going to talk about standard work. It's a great webinar. I'm surprised, we keep presenting it and people are like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, it just gives you emphasizes the importance of standard work and making sure we're all in agreement on what we want to do and making sure that we establish a baseline for improvement. And we'll talk about that then. All right, so I'm going to flip this over to Mark and see if he's got any questions.
I do have some questions, actually. First question we have, do you have blank grids? This is by Andrew. We like a lot of the examples, but the language used in the boards doesn't fit our company's needs. Do you sell the blank grids so we can label the sections ourselves?
Oh, for like KPIs and for charting. Yes, actually, we just had another company this past week. Same thing. They weren't ready to commit on collecting some of the data that they were looking for. We have an overlay that can sit right on top of your dry erase board, and we can print that with a grid format for you. So again, you can customize it, work with it, and they're very inexpensive to get started.
Yep. We got one from Sarah. Tool shadow boards had pretty basic tools. What if you have more unique tools? I can't really find a tool board with tools that has unique tools. I can only seem to find cleaning supplies or hammers, screwdrivers, etc. Do you know of any source that can do unique tool shadows?
We can do unique tool shadows. What we would do is we would ask you to take some photographs, and we'll give you some guidelines in how to take that photograph with some measurement reference. And just from those photographs, we can import those, trace them, and we can, excuse me, and we can scale them to your size. Now, what we have been known to do, especially with customers that we're gonna order many of one particular size or one particular design with some more complex tools like you mentioned, we actually printed it out on banner material, and we rolled that up and sent it to the customer to preview. They then had an opportunity before we went into production to lay their tools on these shadows and make sure everything was scaled correctly. It's because, again, this is banner that can be rolled up in a small tube, ship it quickly UPS, and it gives us one last checks and balances to make sure we've got everything sized correctly.
We got one other question from Jen. She's talking about the foam tool inserts. She's wondering, how do they hold up in an oily environment? It's been my experience that they're easy to clean. The manufacturer said you can throw them in the dishwasher. So, wow. Again, you probably have to use some Dawn. That's the one soap that cuts that. But I would think that you could use some Dawn because that does cut down on the greasy materials. And you should just be able to wash them. Excellent.
So.
Well, that's it for questions that we've received. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So one last note. We're going to send you a link to a landing page on Monday, and we'll have our team follow up with you to see if you've got any questions. You can see my email address is here, so you're welcome to email me directly about anything. You know, I love talking about 5S, workplace organization, visual management, but we do a lot of coaching with our customers, and if there's some things that you need help with, you want to send us some pictures, you know, we can work through a lot of different things. But again, you'll have some things on this landing page that you can download. I encourage you to take advantage of the PowerPoint presentation. If there's some things in there that you find useful and you'd like to incorporate into your own training, please feel free. Okay? So I wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and safe travels. We'll see you in January.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.